السلام عليكم طلاب المرحلة الثانية. هذه محاضرة colloidal dispersion lecture number 2 وهو الشابتر الثاني اللي داخل إن شاء الله ضمن الامتحان التقويمي. colloidal dispersion dispersed system. Dispersed system consists of particle matter known as the dispersed phase dispersed throughout a continuous or dispersion medium. إذن هو عبارة عن particles موزعة في خلينا نقول في وسط معين واللي نسميه dispersed phase or dispersion medium. The dispersed material may be range in size from particles of atomic and molecular dimensions to particles whose size is measured in milliliters. So, من very fine powder or particle or diameter من السايز للأتوميك أو للموليكولر لحد ما نوصل لحد size of milliliters. Accordingly, a convenient mean of classifying dispersed system is on the basis of the mean of particle diameter of the dispersed material. Based on the size of dispersed system, three types of dispersed system are generally considered: molecular dispersion, colloidal dispersion, coarse dispersion. This is depending on its diameter or size. The size range assigned to these classes, together with some of the associated characteristics, can be shown in the table. Molecular dispersion, colloidal dispersion, coarse dispersion. If we talk about particle size, so this one is less than 1 nanometer. Colloidal dispersion from 1 nanometer to 0.5 micrometer. Coarse dispersion واللي من اسمها coarse معناها الكبير خلينا نسميه أو الخشن greater than 0.5 micrometer. If we talk about characteristic of system, molecular dispersion invisible in electron microscope, which is very specific, very scientific, and may give us a big details about the molecular dispersion, but in molecular dispersion, electron microscope cannot be useful. It is invisible. Passes through ultraviolet and semi-permeable membrane. So these type pass through the ultrafilter or filter paper or a type of filter paper. It can be passed through it and cannot be used to filtrate it. Undergo rapid diffusion. While colloidal dispersion characteristic not resolved by ordinary microscope، يعني الميكروسكوب العادي اللي استخدمتوه بالميكروبيولوجي هذا ما نقدر نستخدمه to see the colloidal dispersion, although may be detected under ultra microscope واللي هو حتى هو electron microscope. Visible in electron microscope, passes through filter paper, also it's passed through filter paper or ultra filter paper, do not pass through semi-permeable membrane and diffuse very slowly, while this rapidly diffused. Coarse dispersion, which is larger than 0.5 micrometer, visible under microscope العادي اللي نفس اللي استخدمته بالميكروبيولوجي, do not pass through normal filter paper, do not pass through semi-permeable membrane, and do not diffuse. Examples: oxygen molecule, ordinary ion, and glucose. Example of colloidal dispersion: colloidal silver solutions, natural and synthetic polymer, cheese, butter, jelly, paint, milk, shaving cream, and so on. Coarse dispersion example, grains of sand, most pharmaceutical emulsion and suspension, and red blood cell, which is in this range of diameter. Diffusion through semi-permeable membrane, because of the size of colloidal particles, they can be separated from molecular particles by the use of semi-permeable membrane. This technique is known as a dialysis, which is depending on the particle size or the size of the colloidal dispersion. We can separate two types or two sizes of different colloidal dispersion. This is the semi-permeable membrane. At the start, at the beginning, we see that all the particles is on A part. After equilibrium, we can see that the fine particle across the semi-permeable membrane, while the coarse one cannot cross it. Condition on the two sides A and B of the membrane are shown at the start and at the equilibrium. The open circle are the colloidal particles that are too large to pass through the membrane, while the solid dots are the electrolyte particles that pass through the pores of the membrane. Dialysis occur in vivo. مثل ما نعرف احنا our kidney هي a big example about dialysis. Thus, ion and the small molecule pass radially from the blood through a natural semi-permeable membrane اللي موجود already عندنا to the tissue fluids, while the colloidal compounds of the blood remain within the capillary system. إذا الcolloidal particles الكبيرة الأكبر تبقى بالسيستم الموجود عندنا بالcapillary system, while ions can or small molecules can radially pass this membrane, this in vivo semi-permeable membrane, and pass to the kidney. The principle of the dialysis is utilized in the artificial kidney, which remove low molecular weight impurities from the body by passage through a semi-permeable membrane. نفس الفكرة اللي موجودة اللي نسميها بالعامية هي غسيل الكلى، هي نفسها هذه باستخدام السيمي-permeable membrane أو مبدأ السيمي-permeable membrane so that low molecular weight راح يسوي لها passing تعبر من خلاله وتسوي فد تصفية purification للسوائل الداخلة إلى الكلى بطريقة صناعية. Type of colloidal dispersion according to the type of dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. أول شي قسمناها according to the size، إنها راح نقسمها according to the dispersion medium والcolloidal type. dispersion phase، dispersion medium، شنو نسميه colloidal type. solid نسميها solid solution، واللي هي مثال عليها البيرلز والأوبال. الأوبال هو نوع من الأحجار، والبيرلز اللي هي اللآلئ. liquid solid واللي هي solid emulsion مثال عليها التشيز والبتر. gas liquid واللي هي solid foam اللي هو بوميك والمارشميلو. والبوميك هو ما ينتج عن البراكين واللي هي مثل المادة المصفورة، اوكي، اللي هي هذه غاز الليكويد. solid liquid اللي نسميها solid أو solid gel اللي هي for example like jelly and paint. liquid مثال عليه الإمولشن milk and mayonnaise. gas liquid الفوم واللي هي for example whipped cream and shaving cream. solid gas like solid aerosols, smoke and dust. liquid gas like liquid aerosols, clouds, mist and fog. Gas in gas, we don't have gas in gas colloidal dispersion because gas in gas always produce a solution, not a dispersion. Types of colloidal dispersion according to the shape of the dispersed particle. According to the shape of the dispersed particle. The shape adopted by a particle in dispersion is important because the more extended particle, the greater is its specific surface and the greater its opportunity for attractive force to develop between the particles of the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. So that كل ما صارت كبرت الاريا يصير contact أكثر ويا dispersion medium. Some representative shape of spherical fibrous colloids are shown in this figure. هنشوف احنا انه الفيجر A اللي هو sphere and globules. البي هو short rod and prolated ellipsoids, opaled ellipsoids and flex. الفلكس يعني هي الرقائق. long rod and threads, long rod and threads, loosely colloid threads, branch threads. This type of or classification of solid dispersion according to the shape. Another classification according to the interaction between the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. إذا نسميه عندنا lyophilic. So we have lyophilic colloids according to the interaction. According to the interaction we have lyophilic colloids, lyophobic colloids. Lyophilic colloids, where system containing colloidal particles that interact to an appreciable extent with the dispersion medium, are referred to the lyophilic. That means solvent loving. أو الانتراكشن ويا الميديوم جيد جدا، لذلك هي solvent loving. Owing to their affinity for the dispersion medium، إنه عندها الافينيتي القابلية حتى ترتبط به عالية جدا. Such material form colloidal dispersion or solutions with relative ease. بسهولة، بحيث بسهولة إحنا نركبه just by stirring يتكون عندنا هذا dispersion. Thus, lyophilic colloidal solutions are usually obtained simply by dissolving the material in the solvent being used. For example, the dissolution of acacia or gelatin in water lead to the formation of a solution. The various properties of this class of colloids are due to the attraction between the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. قلنا احنا الافينيتي انها عالية. That means solubility أو interaction أو attraction between الفيس والميديم عالية, which lead to the solvation. Solvation معناها dispersion solvated ويا dispersion medium. The attachment of solvent molecule to the molecule of the dispersed phase. In the case of hydrophilic colloids, in which water is the dispersion medium, this term is known as hydration. هنا سميناه solvation. بوجود الwater هو solvent نسميه hydration. One of the most important properties of lyophilic colloids is the presence of solvent sheath. Most lyophilic colloids are organic molecules. For example, gelatin, acacia, insulin, albumin, rubber, and polystyrene. Of these, the first four produce lyophilic colloids. يعني منهم gelatin, acacia, insulin, albumin, form lyophilic colloids in aqueous dispersion media. يعني hydrophilic solution خلينا نسميها. Okay, hydrophilic solutions. Rubber and polystyrene اللي هي البقية المتبقية من عندها form lyophilic colloids. in non-aqueous organic solvent. These materials accordingly are referred to as lipophilic colloids. lipophilic معناها ويا الليبيديك medium هو الاتراكشن أو الافينيتي أكثر. These examples illustrated the important point that the term lyophilic has meaning only when they applied to the material dispersed in a specific dispersion medium. A material that form a lyophilic colloidal system in one liquid, for example water, may not do so in another liquid like benzene. إذن إحنا الافينيتي وإذا نسميها lyophilic أو نسميها in general نسميها lyophilic in general any type of solvent مو شرط اللي يكون إلها lyophilic للووتر زين إلها نفس الافينيتي العالية ويا البنزين لا. This is depending on the medium and on the dispersion phase. Lyophobic colloids. The second class of colloids is composed of material that have little attraction. بيناتها أكو little attraction if any for dispersion medium أو حتى even ما موجود. These are the lyophilic solvent hating colloids. And so their properties differ from those of lyophilic colloids اللي هي قلنا solvent loving colloids. This is primarily due to the absence of solvent sheath. مو موجود هذا الشيث أو الإطار اللي يأطر البارتيكل حتى يصير interaction around the particle. Lyophobic colloids are generally composed of inorganic particles dispersed in water. Examples of such material are gold, silver, sulfur, aerosol sulfate, and silver iodide. In contrast, the lyophilic colloids, it is necessary to use a special method to prepare lyophilic colloids. بينما قلنا lyophilic in contrast to lyophilic lyophilic colloids يحتاج إلى طريقة معينة لصناعتها أو لتصنيعها بينما lyophilic colloids كانت التكوين مالتها يكون أبسط طريقة تحضيرها أبسط من lyophilic colloids. Association colloid اللي هي شنو؟ اللي هي two type or amphiphilic colloids form the third group in this classification. They are certain organic molecule or ions termed as amphiphiles or surface active agent. تكلمنا عنها بالمحاضرة الأولى. Are characterized by having two distinct regions of opposing solution affinities within the same molecule or ion. When present in a liquid medium at low concentration, the amphiphiles exist separately and are of such a size to be subcolloidal. إذن من موجودة بconcentration قليل داخل السيستم اللي هو liquid or solid liquid anyhow تكون موجودة بconcentration قليل حتكون موزعة داخل هذا السيستم. As the concentration increased means that the concentration of this type اللي هي surface active agent زين تتحول إلى تحاول تسوي aggregation تصير as aggregation تتجمع occur over a narrow concentration range. نحدد إحنا هذا concentration ونسوي تسوي على شكل تجمعات. These aggregate which may contain 50 or more monomer are called micelles. هذه هي اللي نسميها المicelles because the diameter of each micelle is of the order of 50 angstrom. Micelles lie within the size range of colloidal particles. إذا هي ضمن colloidal particles. هذه السفيريكال اللي تسويها أو الارينجمنت اللي تسويها أو الاجريجيشن تحاول تخلي بداخلها مثلا المادة الغير مذابة بهذه الميديا. يعني إذا قلنا هي مادة لايبوفيليك ونريد نذوبها بواتر، هاي السيرفيس اكتيف ايجنت تحيط هذه المادة، والهيد اللايبوفيليك الهيد متوجه إلها، بينما الهيدروفيليك هيد متوجه إلى الواتر، لذلك تزيد الوتابيلتي. Such compounds are called association colloidal. معناها بها two type، اللايبوفيليك والهيدروفيليك. كملنا التايبس والكلاسيفيكيشن of hydrophilic and lipophilic colloids. راح نكمل ويا الكاينتيك properties of colloids.